Alright, so I can see that the video is not exactly perfect, and hopefully it's not going to be too much of an issue for anybody in this. Mostly, the important part is the PowerPoints in this. So this is part two, where I would call part two anyway. I think that's probably the easiest way is to go in this order at least for the first time you watch this. What I have what I've done is developed a very brief discussion of the pari-mutuel wagering system. What I found is most people that are not directly involved in the racing industry really don't understand how the pari-mutuel system works. It's really pretty simple, and especially for math people, this I think it would be extremely simple process to understand. But what I've done is gone through and give you a little bit of the history on it and how it works. Essentially, the pari-mutuel wagering system in the United States, at least, it's the only form of legal wagering on horse races in the United States. This system dates back to to 1867. It was developed in France. The big advent in pari-mutuel wagering though came in 1913 when the totalizator system was developed. This was brought to the United States in 1927 and led to a huge expansion of legalized horse racing. What the totalizator board did, it's the tote board, it's essentially the same board that you see today. It's definitely changed the technology, but the basis of it is still the same. And this is the system that allows the massive numbers of wagers to be calculated and to be pooled together, and allows the most important thing that allows the legalization of horse racing is that they can tax this because it can be easily calculated. The brief mathematics behind pari-mutuel wagering is that everybody that is betting on that race picks their horse or picks their combination of horses depending on the wager. They make individual wagers on those different betting interests. All the single wagers are then pooled into a single pool, and a portion of that pool is taken out. This is what we call the takeout. This ranges anywhere from an average of about 15%, especially for win wagers. It's an average of about 15% to about 25% of that pool is taken out, and this money goes to the racetracks. It goes to pay purses. Part of that goes to state taxes, and you get into some states like California. That percentage is split up in many different ways, but ultimately the most important part is that the horsemen that have horses running in those races, a portion of it goes to pay purses, a portion of it goes to the racetrack as their profits, and a portion of it goes to taxes. And then what's left, the winning bettors that had winning tickets on those races split the profits that are remaining from that pool, and that's what they get paid as a win wager. The takeout, though, is extremely important because essentially it is a tax on the bettors. That it's a portion that they never can see. They have no control over that, regardless of their abilities to pick horses. They can't control this because it really is a tax. Now, there's been a lot of past studies on this topic that look at lowering takeout and see it as a beneficial move because as more wagers are processed, there is a churn factor in this. It's the same as economic principles. When it comes to taxation, they all lead to the same thing, that if you lower the takeout, you will actually increase the profits that you'll make because the money is churned over more and more, and your bettors don't go broke faster, essentially. Problem, though, is that all the information on this is very dated. Now, the biggest paper on this was from 1976. There were several other papers that have been done in the 70s and early to mid 80s. The problem with those is that they were relying on track wagering only because that was the way that pari-mutuel wagering was done. Now, this relies on a couple of basic principles. This says that all the players that come to the racetrack on that day bring a set amount of money. That can vary tremendously between bettor to bettor, but a set amount of money is brought to the racetrack, and that money is bet and rebet. But the players could only bet at that racetrack and bet race 1, bet race 2, bet race 3, and so on. Now, when you look at a very closed system like this, lowering takeout does mathematically lead to more churn, and what it does is creates more revenue for the horsemen, for the racetracks, for everybody, especially when you look at when you process these bets numerous times. Now, today we have a very different environment from when these past studies have been done. This is mostly because of what we call simulcast wagering. Now, this allows players to bet on different racetracks in different orders. This system began really in the 70s to 80s. There was a lot of kind of illegal simulcast wagering where a racetrack or a group would take bets on a particular race and it was watched on TV, and they would pay out the track odds, wouldn't pay out the track odds. There were a lot of different things involved in that. And the Interstate Horse Racing Act really clarified a lot of that. It set some standards for this. This is a federal law. This was passed in 1978 before simulcast wagering really took off. And so the implications of simulcast wagering now is that instead of playing track A and playing race 1, race 2, race 3, now the player can play track A and bet race 1, then they can bet track B on race 2, then they can bet track C, race 1, race 3, whatever that is. They can bounce around to a lot of different tracks. So now the problem is that there's really no correlation between takeout on these tracks. All these tracks have different takeout rates, and lowering or raising the takeout does not affect the churn the way it used to. Now, the overall results of simulcast wagering is that as opposed to having a real monopoly on wagering, back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, there was really only two ways to wager. You could bet at Las Vegas, you could bet at the casinos there, and all the different ways that you can bet at those casinos, or you could bet horse racing. The simulcast wagering, though, has moved those bets from 100% of the wagers at a racetrack being bet on track to approximately 90% bet off track. It has had a tremendous effect on the racing industry. Today we even have what they call advanced deposit wagering, where I can go online and place bets with money that I've put up front into an account. This has opened the doors to even more of a simulcast type environment. And now these old studies that have been done really do not have any application to today's environment. To kind of look at that and how this different model has changed, I've kind of put this briefly together to where yesterday or in the past, if the player bet $100 on race 1 at track A, and that track had a $20 or 20% takeout, then ultimately the player or all the players together would have 80% to rebet. Now, if they bet the next race, that would be race 2 at track A, they'd have $80 to rebet, and after the 20% takeout, they'd have approximately $64 to rebet. If you do that over and over again, the player goes broke pretty fast on that 20% takeout. Now today, if that same bet is made at track A, and let's say they lower it, the players are going to have $90 to rebet. They're not going to go broke as fast in this system, and eventually it's been shown the track will make more money. But the problem is, there's nothing that says that player will take that $90 and rebet it on track A. So if that track has lowered their takeout, and that player takes that $90 to another track that still has a higher takeout, they're going to have $72 to rebet in the end, but track A is getting no benefit from that. So without any kind of a model to show that overall that these positive benefits come from that, there's no incentive for any track to raise their takeout. In fact, there's many tracks that are still there's still a lot of tracks that are raising their takeout instead of lowering it. So what I really want to be able to do is try to build a simulation of today's environment. Now, I have a lot of Microsoft Excel skills to be able to do this, and I think I can achieve the Excel side of this. But what I want to be able to do is show that if there's no correlation between these bets, that if you change the takeout rates, and you analyze the profits that go to these racetracks and to the horsemen and to the state, before you change the takeout, then reanalyze all this and look at it after you've altered the takeout. When I say alter, I have about 4 different ways I want to do that. 2 of those lower the takeout, and 2 of those actually raise the takeout, and be able to see mathematically the changes in this. And this is where the statistics part is going to come in that I'm not really good at, to be able to see, to try to find this in a statistically accurate way. That's ultimately, I want this to be not only an applicable process, but have one that that's statistically accurate, so that anybody that wants to attack the ideas in this, I'll at least have something to defend myself on that. That's going to be it for this next video, and I'm going to record the next one, which will kind of talk about the pari-mutuel system even more, about how to calculate these pools.